world. As you might have guessed, this has been a pretty wild ride over the last 24 hours. We really struck a blow for humanity, and we're really pushing hard as to what it takes to reclaim Earth for the humans. I'm glad that we're making progress like this, and I'm really excited about the next steps, because our next missions are really clear and right in front of us. We know exactly what we've got to do. But I'll tell you a little bit of detail about this one. The location was near Vladivostok, southwest of Vladivostok, 60, 75 kilometers or something like that. And it's and it was a 6-story building, and it's one of the rare ones that it was above ground. Like they don't normally do that sort of thing. And so the location was near Vladivostok. Now it's kind of in a beat up, rundown area, a place where nobody goes and nobody's got any reason to go. And it looked like a bit of a flat wasteland. I don't know what was going on there, but the locals know not to go near this building. It was a 6-story building. It was probably built in the 60s, we're guessing, with a concrete facade. It had all of the architectural grace of a brick. It was an ugly piece of architecture. But in this 6-story building, we saw nasty on all 6 levels. Now, the thing that was different about this one was that it was above ground, like normally they're below ground. It did have access to the underground tunnel network. Now, keep in mind that because it's above ground, they needed to maintain a disguise. So on the bottom floor was, it looked like a normal office. It looked like there were humans walking around in business shirts, passing about pieces of paper and playing on computers. When actually, this is their lowest, they were all draconians with illusions. And it's a technology they all have. If you've got the skills, then you can see through it. I did see one of my video comments saying we should all be able to recognize them. And yeah, that would be nice, but it took me at least 10 years of training to be able to do that. So for all of humanity to be able to do that, then these meditation techniques need to be taught in schools. There's a whole other video waiting for that story. Back to the point, when we approach a place like this, what we've developed is a invisibility suit where we don't emanate any energy on any spectrum whatsoever. So we can't be seen, we can't be detected, we can't be felt, they don't know we're there. And so we have a method of capturing a whole floor at once. But we need to wander around there to identify each target and mark them, so that when the time comes to bag them, then we can do it lickety-split before anybody notices and before anybody can respond or react. The first floor was sort of an illusion floor, so if anyone did show up, it looked like a normal government office or a secret government office or something silly like that. And there's just the kind of government office where nobody leaves come 5 o'clock in the evening. So the locals know that it's a place you just don't go. On the second floor, it was actually a database center. It was really weird, because like when we first looked at the hard drive stacks, they look, those old ones from the 60s that look, 60s and 70s that look, about the size of a fridge or two smushed together. But what was interesting is the outer casing was that, and inside parts of the technology had been replaced with stuff that's way more advanced. And so you had this mixed technology in there as an odd little feature. But these guys were tracking all sorts of things on Earth. These guys were an intelligence unit. On the third floor, they were walking around in lab coats, but they didn't really have a task. They weren't really engaged in anything. They were like on the payroll, but without a job to do. And so they were lounging around those reptilians. On the fourth floor, we thought it was a rec room at first, but it's kind of like everybody standing around and waiting for something to do. And these guys were 6.5, 7 feet tall, and on average weighed a bit more than your average Draco. What we figured out later was that this was a bodyguard unit. This was the personal guard of the guys on the 5th floor. And in there was a 4-man command unit, a general and his colonels. we'll say that, we'll call them that because they don't follow exactly that, but that's the way we described it. And a few, what do you call them, aid de camp support staff, and we caught up with all of them. Each level, this is the ugly part, each level also had cages with humans in them for their entertainment, pretty much. I don't want to go into more detail than that. But the 6th level was where they keep, where they dispose of the remains. I won't go into any further detail than that because, like, talking about these dracos is ugly enough, and what they do to humans, I just don't want to share with you. What was odd about this place is that it did have an underground component, but nobody seemed to inhabit that. There was some storage there, some junk, but what it was, from the 5th floor where the command staff live and work, they had an elevator that goes down to through the storage level, and then the 2nd basement level, where there's a train into that system of underground, deep underground military bases. You know, it seems to be an unlimited. That complex seems to be unlimited. Now, Gaia nominated this base first because by hitting some of their intelligence group, the rest of the Draco will be more confused in everything they do. Now, Gaia nominated this base because if we take out one of their intelligence units, then the rest of them will be more and more confused. Not a problem, it's okay. During the week, I also hit 4 other outposts, and the whole bunch of captured reptilians amounted to 650 or 642 or something like that, which we began the process described in this one, in this video, at the behest of the Galactic Federation of Light, which you'll hear that story in this video. However, that process turned out to be far more time-consuming and far more tricky than we anticipated. Now, I did go through a couple of dozen of these guys and put them through that, call it the rehabilitation process, or the maybe re-education is a better word for these Draco. And of the few dozen that I put through that process, about 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 pass the test, or actually learn compassion, kindness, caring, that sort of stuff, and are deemed. So of the few dozen that I put through the process of re-education or rehabilitation, or whatever you want to call that, about 1 in 5, 1 in 6 actually qualifies to move on to the next stage, to be reintegrated into whatever comes next. And it's not a given where they stay or what happens to them. It's just that these guys are not completely full of nasty. They do understand empathy. They do understand compassion. They have had the reflection of all of the nasty karma they've created reflected back to them through this process. So they learned something. Hopefully we can work with them in the future. My old policy was the only good reptilian is a dead reptilian, but that's not strictly true anymore. Some of these guys are worth salvaging, and I'm really curious to see what they offer the world, or what they offer creation after their rehabilitation. That's going to be really exciting and entertaining, because it will be so original and new. And it's one of the things that basically every species has showed up here for. Do keep an eye out for this video, who is taking over from the reptilians, because this, if you're into exopolitics, this is a critical piece of information. And I'll also have another video that's a bit of an update on, now that they're no longer contracted to control Earth, what are they doing, and what did they do immediately before they exited? What sort of extra garbage did they throw our way? So thanks for listening. Good to see you all again. If you saw this part of the video, it must mean that my material is worth listening to and is informative and or entertaining enough for you to enjoy it. So please like and subscribe. There will be lots more like it. We've been doing this for a few years, and the only difference is now that I'm telling you all about it, now that I'm publishing. The only difference is now I am publishing this information. So see you all around.